On this episode of Narcissist Apocalypse, we talk with an abuse survivor named James. And James was in a one-sided marriage of 7 years to a spouse that was constantly cheating on him. It's a story of never being good enough and the constant push and pull of having your partner on a pedestal. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, a podcast that gives a voice to survivors of narcissistic abuse. I am Brandon Chadwick, but my friends call me Chad, and thanks for tuning into this episode. So what is a narcissist, you may ask? Well, for the purposes of this podcast, we refer to a narcissist as anyone who has displayed a pattern of behavior that shows a limited capacity to appreciate others' perspectives. It is that simple. And now, before we get to our episode with James, I just wanted to thank everyone in the Narcissist Apocalypse community for listening to the show and sharing your thoughts by email, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, a reminder, if you haven't left us a review on whatever podcast service you use, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Castbox, etc., please leave us a 5-star written review as it helps out the show when it comes to rankings. Now, if you haven't been to our website recently, please do go there if you want to be part of our show and be a guest. Go to our website at narcissistapocalypse.com, find the button that says guest form, fill out the form, and away we'll go. We'll go through the whole entire process. And the quickest way to be part of the show is to also go to our website at narcissistapocalypse.com and read a letter to your narcissist and be part of our Letters to Our Narcissist compilation episode. We have a voicemail recorder on our website to record. Go to narcissistapocalypse.com, right side of the page. It's always floating, hard to miss. There's a button that says send voicemail. Press it and away you'll go. We are accumulating these letters to have a volume 3 of that episode, so send in those voicemails. And if you want to send in a written letter, just send it to us at narcissistapocalypse@gmail.com, and myself or my old pal Melissa will read it on the show for you. There are some other things on our website at narcissistapocalypse.com. We are now offering high-conflict parenting courses that can be found at narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. Yes, we have partnered with an online parenting company, and many of the courses we are offering were created by Bill Eddy. And if you've listened to our episode last year with a divorce lawyer named Helen, you'll know that Bill Eddy is an expert in dealing with high-conflict individuals in court, and he's now helped create many parenting courses to help you through divorce and to help support your children too. These courses are the most widely recognized courses by family courts across the country, so if you want to support the show and are looking for guidance, please do go to narcissistapocalypse.com/courses. And we have some more things on the table for you guys today. We have a new podcast. Yes, we have a podcast called Narcissist Apocalypse Q&A, and it is now available for your listening pleasure. We have 9 episodes that we have released. Our last episode was about choosing the right therapist or coach for you. It's a big topic we get asked a lot about, and if you want to support this podcast, one of the many ways is to hire a therapist or coach from our directory. Yes, we have a directory at abusetherapy.org. So if you're looking for a therapist or coach, please do go to abusetherapy.org. And if we don't have someone in your area, let us know and we'll help find someone for you. Using abusetherapy.org helps support the show. But do you know what else helps support the show? Our Patreon. Yes, we started a Patreon. If you want to hear episodes that never made it to air, follow-up episodes with former guests, and much, 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 much more, join our Patreon. We'll be releasing new content on there every week, so help support the show by becoming a patron of our Patreon at patreon.com/narcissistapocalypse. And last thing, I promise it's the last thing, we started a YouTube channel, and we started making fun pop culture narcissist-based videos, so if you want to go check those out, they're more on the humorous side. We'll leave a link to that in our description. And now, it's time for me to get out of my own way and your way. Here is my conversation with James. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse. With me today, I have James. How are you?
I'm fine, Brandon. Yourself?
I am good, and we are both fellow Canucks. And today, James is going to tell us a story of his marriage, and it's infidelity. It's a common thread with many people who are in narcissistic abuse relationships. And now I'm just rambling. I'm about to get out of my way and your way, and the floor, James, is now yours.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. I guess I'll start off with a little bit about myself. Grew up in a general kind of stable, well, semi-stable childhood. Parents divorced when I was 13. My dad was cheating on my wife, on my mother. That's kind of a weird one. It's a great start.
I'm keeping that in.
Okay, fair enough. So, he was cheating on my mother at the time, and they split up, and then, of course, they met their significant others, and everything went on happy about that. I've been married, now twice. My first marriage, I met my first wife through high school, and we got married in 2008. Had a beautiful son in 2009. Shortly after that, with buying houses and new cars and new kid and new everything kind of took its toll, and we ended up drifting apart in 2012, and we ended up separating in 2012. On Halloween, actually, trick or treat on that one. Upon separation, I had, we got a separation agreement and a child custody agreement drawn up real quick, and, she was in and out of that, or she was out of the house within a couple of weeks, and we assumed a child custody agreement of 1 week on, 1 week off with our son, and I was left with the house, which was in a lot of disrepair, so I had to repair it with the help with my father over the next 6 or 7 months to try and get it up and running and then get it on the market for sale, because my ex-wife was moving to the east side of the city, and she wanted her son there to go to school. So I was trying hard to try and make those things happen. Part of our separation agreement, or our child custody agreement, is that if anybody new came into the lives of our son, that the other parent would get a chance to meet him or meet this person before meeting our son. And my ex-wife met somebody fairly quickly after the marriage broke down, and I had requested to want to meet this person, and I never got a response. So I ended up having to do some investigating myself to try and find out who this person was, and I ended up finding out who he was. And it turned out he was actually involved in a relationship prior with a girl who had a kid, and I tracked her down, and this is where I kind of met my narc, if you will. So I ended up sending.
So your narcissist ended up being the ex-wife to the husband, or did your ex-wife get married?
No, she didn't.
Okay, so to the future boyfriend of your wife. Probably made that even more confusing for everyone.
Oh yeah, if anybody just wants to kind of Google the Shania Twain effect, that's exactly what we did here. I ended up sending a message to my ex-wife's boyfriend's ex-girlfriend. I think we can clear that up there.
Thank you.
It gets weirder. So I ended up sending a message to her. She never responded back for about a month and a half, and by that time I had met the new boyfriend, and everything was fine on that end. Anyway, she responded back to me, and she seemed very nice. And she gave him lots of compliments about how good he was with her son, and how good he was and how much of a father figure he was and that sort of thing, which really made me feel a lot better. But then we started talking kind of back and forth, about our exes to start, and what happened and that sort of thing. And then we started talking a little bit more about other things, and it just felt so natural talking to her that it almost felt like I was almost talking to myself. And eventually one thing led to another, and I finally asked her if she wanted to go out for a drink, and I wasn't thinking she was going to say yes, because first of all, I thought she was, she was a very good looking woman, and I don't have very much confidence in myself. So she ended up saying yes, and so we ended up going out a few days later. I kind of went all out on the first date. Did a quest around town. It was a quest to try and figure out where we were going to eat. And it was in the middle of the winter time too, which I found out later that she was not a big fan of winter. But anyway, she played along real well, and we had a really good first date. Ended up closing the restaurant down, went back to her place, and we talked literally till about 5 o'clock in the morning, and it felt so natural to the point, like we were even finishing each other's sentences, and it just felt like everything was just going great. Anyways, we ended up with a kiss to end the night, and I went home, started working on my house that I was trying to get sold, and she texted me the next day immediately, just wondering how I am and what I'm up to, and wondering if I could come back over and see her again and that sort of thing. So I ended up seeing her again the next night, and it just went really, really, like, the talking was just so natural, and she was like just almost like she was. It almost felt like it was just too good to be true. The way that we were talking about, our goals and ambitions and what we're into and that sort of thing. And she always seemed that she was kind of into the same things I was, it just sounded like impossible. So anyways, that night we ended up actually, having sex, which I thought was a little quick. And then shortly after that, every day I would get texts and pictures and say, I really miss you, and I really want to be with you, and when you're coming back, and that sort of thing. And I was in a part of my life where my life was not kind of all together. And I wasn't really expecting to get back into a relationship so quickly. But she just made everything seem so natural and just, so right, and that she was saying all the right things to me. Like, it started very early on, like within a couple of weeks, she was telling me I was the one. And, I was just eating it all up. Like, it was crazy. Like, I was in a part of my life where any type of positive compliments would just lift me right up. So, and I think she kind of read that off me because, I was not a very happy guy at the time. So she continued to, like I said, every day, almost like on the hour, like just constant text messages, and we were texting back and forth, and everything was just going great. She just couldn't get enough of me. And early on in the relationship, there was a lot of, now that I know what it is, love bombing, and a lot of compliments coming my way, and then it just shortly after that, it almost like we were spending almost every day together. I mean, I'd work, and then I would go right to her house, or we'd meet up somewhere, and like we became a couple really, really fast, to the point, like, even a month in, we hadn't really introduced our kids to each other or to them or what have you, that sort of thing, because we didn't know where the relationship was going. But it really seemed like it was going like incredibly fast, and it was almost like it was something I couldn't stop it. But she just kept on pouring it on, like, you're the one for me, and I'm so in love with you, and I can't wait to spend the next 50 years with you together, that sort of thing. Just constant, like one after the other, just one more. And I was just eating it right up and not even thinking anything of it.
So the love bombing was so constant that it was just so overwhelming. Were there any red flags that you could see or just ignored at that time?
I mean, I'm not the best at relationships to begin with, obviously. So, I mean, I didn't know what a red flag was. I think, hindsight 2020, yeah, that definitely was a red flag for me. But I was at a point in my life that, like I said, I could have used anything at that point to try and, raise my spirits. And, I'd never have somebody do this to me. So I thought it was actually doing the right thing. So I just kept on doing it. I just kept on, texting her and that sort of thing. And and saying things back to her, like in the same sort of fashion. Like, I just can't believe that we're so in tune with each other, and that, you know, everything just flows just perfectly. And then like a month into the relationship, she was even talking about marriage. And I was like, you know, that red flag should have came up right away, because I just literally got out of a marriage, and I was, you know, saying that I wasn't going to get back into one. And I kind of had to slow her down just a little bit and said, "Oh, I'm still married, so I'm in a separation right now, so let's calm down." But it even came to the point, like, we were shopping in a mall, and we would go into a jewelry store, and she would like point at rings and say, that would look really nice on my finger, and that sort of thing. And it actually turned my opinion around on marriage. Like, I didn't want to get married again, but then all of a sudden, well, now, because everything's going so well, and she literally just like treats me like, you know, like I'm a god, that, yeah, maybe I can see myself getting married to her again, and that sort of thing. So it was.
Did you ever talk? Did you ever talk to the boyfriend about her, or no?
No, I didn't. I don't think he was really too impressed that I was dating her. But I mean, afterwards, after all this, you know, all this had happened, that sort of thing, like down the road, that sort of thing, we did end up talking, and it was kind of funny because, she did the exact same thing to him. So almost word for word. He was just absolutely shocked, about how she was going about things, because she did the exact same to him, and he fell for it as well too. Because him and I are actually kind of like similar. So, you know, so I never really talked to him throughout our entire relationship, and like we were together 7 years. So, anyways, we eventually started seeing, or we introduced our kids to each other, and that sort of thing. And they didn't like each other at first, obviously, but eventually we kind of started growing into a family about, you know, 4 or 5 months into the relationship. And my house was almost done, and I was getting ready to sell, and I was going to have to move to the East End of the city, you know, as agreed with my ex-wife. And just, you know, it just kind of fit into place. My narc lived in the East End as well too, and asked if we wanted to move in with her. And this is like 4 or 5 months into the relationship, and I had to think about it for a couple of days. But as I was thinking about it, she was just constantly persuading me, like, this is what can happen. Like, if you move in, then we'll be with each other all the time, and, you know, we'll be able to do things for each other, and, you know, and then we could, you know, and you know, we can just love each other all the time, and, you know, like, why, you know, why put this on hold? Everything just seems so right for us. And the more and more I got persuaded, eventually I said, okay, let's try the moving in part, and we'll see how it goes. So I moved into her house in July of 2013, and everything was okay. You know, we didn't argue, we never disagreed or anything like that. You know, everything just seemed to be going way too perfect. Like, it just, and I was just in a kind of just in the haze, just like on cloud nine, if you will. Like, just completely and utterly just deeply in love with this woman. And I can never think that she could do no wrong. And she never did do any wrong whatsoever. Like, she was constantly doing things for me and that sort of thing, and I was doing things for her. And if she wanted something special, I'd run out and go get it, and, you know, bring it to her, or that sort of thing. And everything was just fantastic. She was in the process of trying to become a police officer at this time, and so she would go on ride-alongs with police officers, just to you know, look at what they do during a shift and that sort of thing. And she had a cop friend who was a guy, and she would go on ride-alongs with him from time to time on a night shift. And I never thought anything of this, because I'm just, you know, she wants me. She's told me that, you know, I'm the best, and that, you know, that she's in love with me. I'm the one. You know, I was just constantly thinking that in my head, like, nothing could possibly happen whatsoever. Nothing at all. Anyways, one day I was in her computer, updating her software and that sort of thing, and I came across, you know, some text messages in a picture, and it was the text messages from, between her and this cop guy, and it was pretty explicit stuff about what they were going to do each other on the next ride along and that sort of thing. I don't know if I want to get into too much detail on it, but people can use their imagination. So I started to kind of break down, and I was devastated, like, this is unreal. Why is this happening? And that sort of thing. So I confronted her immediately as soon as I found it. And she just said those were just text messages, that we never did anything like that on a ride along, or we were never planning on doing that. And it was just friendly flirting. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not friendly flirting. I don't do that to women. I don't text that to women and say those types of things, because I would just feel horrible. So anyways, it took a couple of days to kind of get over that, and we talked about it, and then she said, no, don't worry about it. I'm not going to do that again. And, just remember, you're the one for me. I'm 100% in love with you. It didn't mean anything. And then of course, manipulation started again, and I fell for it. And, I just went, gaga over again. And then right after that incident, then she started love bombing even more. Like, it was daily, hourly, I love you, that sort of thing. I hope you have a great day at work, that sort of thing. I'll be thinking about you all the time, and that sort of thing. And then sending pictures and stuff like that of, sexual poses and that sort of thing. And really get my mind off of the actual problem that we were going through. And, even to the point where she was, going above and beyond, like doing extra things for me and helping out around the house and that sort of thing. So it took a while to get over that, but we did get over it, and things were going really good. No fighting, family was getting along, and then, she was going on ride-alongs, but with other cops, like female cops at the time, to put my mind at ease. So one day down the road, I'd say about 6 months later, that sort of thing, we were moving into a new house, and we just settled in and that sort of thing. And I texted her one day, and I said, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, I'm just taking the dog for a walk in the park. This little, like a local kind of walking park or walking trail for dogs and, people, that sort of thing. And I said, oh, okay, cool. And I was kind of driving in between jobs on construction sites, and I figured, hey, why not? I'm going to go and try and surprise her, see if I can catch her there, and maybe go for a walk with her. So I was approaching this park, and I noticed that she was in the parking lot with a guy. And I figured, okay, she's probably done, so I'll just kind of keep driving. And as I was driving, past, I kind of said, that doesn't seem right. Who was that guy? So I kind of did a U-turn and then drove back. I guess she thought that I had she saw me drive by the first time, and I guess she thought that I just kept on driving. But I did a U-turn and came back, and when I came back, I saw them making out. Oof. And I literally almost went off the road because I was just in shock and not even paying attention. And so I just continued driving home. And as I was driving home, or when I got home, I texted her and I said, and I just kind of started talking just normally, that sort of thing, and just kind of like, what were you doing at the park and that sort of thing. And she literally didn't even say one thing about what she was doing. She was just saying that she was getting the dog into the car, and that she was just talking with some guy. And then I said, that's not what I saw. And then she's like, well, what did you see? And I'm like, you were making out with a guy. And then she's like, well, only for a second. I was like, oh my God, really? Like, I know you're taking responsibility for this, but
she had zero remorse.
Zero remorse whatsoever. No, zero remorse, zero apology whatsoever. So I said, okay, that's fine. And then we didn't text until later on, or we didn't talk till later on when she came home from teaching a fitness class.
So within that time, she went and taught a fitness class instead of coming home to discuss this with you. What is going on in your brain are you thinking of ultimatums that are going to happen? Are you willing to just break up with her there? This is devastating to actually see, not just hear or read. So, did you have did you have a plan that maybe she like then tore that plan out completely apart when she came back?
Yeah, so I went home after I'd done texting her, so literally I was pacing up and down the house trying to figure out what am I going to do here? How am I going to approach this? I can't just, I don't want to go in and just start yelling and screaming at her because it just doesn't get anywhere. And I said, I'm going to try and take the mature approach here and just try and talk this out. So she came home. And I had a couple of plans in my head, like it's a couple of scenarios that we're going to go, a certain way. Like either we're going to get into this really heavy or we're going to really sit down and talk about this and find out why you keep doing this. So she came home and I said, so, you want to explain it? Like what's going on? And, turned out it was the same guy that she was on a ride along, the first time. And I asked her the question. I said, "Why do you keep going towards him? Why do you keep gravitating towards him? Or why gravitating towards him? And why do you guys keep doing this? I mean, this guy was married too." And she's I just can't explain it. And she's like, "He just does something for me." And my heart just dropped. And I just I can't believe you're saying this right now. Like I've been pretty much the model boyfriend for the last year and a half, and I've taken care of your child, and I've I'm coaching his hockey now, and I'm doing everything around the house, and well, you can go off and do whatever you want to do, because I gave her that much leniency. If she wanted to do something, it's like, go ahead and do it, and I'd always stay back and take care of the kids and that sort of thing, and then progressively through the relationship, it just got worse and worse until I was just a full-time homebody and just, making sure the kids were all right while she pursued whatever kind of goal she was thinking about that week. And
so in a way you became, like, over time, a babysitter and housekeeper.
Essentially, yeah. And it's funny, that's kind of the exact same, kind of wording that her ex-boyfriend told me afterwards, that he became just like a stay-at-home dad. To a child that wasn't even his.
And during this time, are you being put down in any way? Because you said before coming in, you thought she was beautiful, and that you weren't, maybe your self-esteem about yourself wasn't great. So are you being put down in other ways? Are you being told other things about yourself that you're kind of led to believe or to make yourself feel insecure?
Yeah, a lot of she's obviously very into fitness and that sort of thing. And, there was always, little jabs here and there about me, because I wasn't really going to a gym or anything like that. I mean, between working, 50 hours a week and then going home and doing everything that I have to do at home, sometimes I just didn't have the time to do it. And I was just tired, but there would always be these little subtle jabs about, you should really join a gym, if you want to cut off, that beer belly or anything like that, or get your stomach down and that sort of thing. Or, with my hair, it was more physical features, like she didn't like when I shaved my face. Like she liked always having the 5 o'clock shadow or something all the time. And I didn't like the 5 o'clock shadow that much at first, and then of course she kind of convinced me that this is just the way to go. And of course then I just was 5 o'clock shadow all the time, or there was a certain way that she liked my haircut, and always telling me when to go get a haircut. And, she was having me getting a haircut every, 3 or 4 weeks. And I just go 2 months, I hate getting a haircut, but she convinced me to just, everything that she would say about me that was kind of negative, I would try and get it done, because I'm like, I just want to impress her. And I want her, to make her, love me even more, that sort of thing. So it wasn't really necessarily about what I wanted. It was everything that she wanted. So any type of negativity or something, I would take it to heart and I would jump on it right away. A certain way, like even everything to, buying food or certain types of food, that sort of thing. You shouldn't really buy this food. You should, this is that, it's healthier for you. And then, sure, now I'm eating, organic chicken or something like that. And and or lactose-free yogurt. I have no idea. And
did she ever have like rage issues or anything like that?
Not with me directly, but she would have rage issues. She would have rage issues with her son's father a lot, and also sometimes with her son. She would get really angry, and then kind of call him names here and there, that sort of thing. But she wasn't overly, I wouldn't say she was an overly angry person. A lot of people would look at her and think that she's just the most perfect person in the world. She plays a really good face where nothing bothers her, nothing phases her. She's always looking at things at a positive way and that sort of thing. And she's just the model citizen.
So she's a charmer.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Oh, she's very much a charmer. She's got a bubbly personality. And so when she gets into crowds or speaking, that sort of thing, she's a fitness teacher, on the side, that sort of thing. So she's also a big fan of center of attention sort of thing. So when she gets into a crowd, she likes to be that one that stands out and, wants to be, noticed and observed and looked at, and then of course complimented, how good she looks and that sort of thing. And, she's really, really into herself. And her looks and her features and, things that she does. She needs constant praise, not just by one person, by several people. So she's always constantly, this is one thing I noticed very early on in our relationship, that she was always on her phone. And I never had access to this phone, so I never knew what she was really going on in there. But later on in the relationship, I knew when there was bad things going on, because she would tilt her phone a certain way. Like if I was sitting beside her, she would tilt her phone a certain way where I couldn't see it. And that's when I knew she was kind of up to no good. I nicknamed that kind of, that motion secret time. So, cause I knew that she was either texting, somebody or sending something to somebody that she shouldn't really be sending something to. So as the relationship, after that second kind of infidelity moment, that sort of thing. And, we went through a couple weeks of constant discussion about what's going to happen, that sort of thing. I even asked if do we want to go into counseling? Do we want to go, I'm here trying to fix this. I'm not telling her that she's wrong, but I'm telling her let's try and fix this. I was completely just brainwashed. Just kind of, because I'm always going back in my head kind of thinking about what she said before about spending the next 50 years with me and all these things that we're going to do, like trips and travel and that sort of thing. And even marriage was coming up all the time. And, so I kind of just, every time something bad would happen, we just kind of slide it under the carpet and just pretend that it didn't exist anymore. And that's how she would come off. Every time that something bad would happen, she would just slide it under the carpet and just not worry about it anymore, not show any remorse or not learn from what just happened. I thought I was learning, but apparently not, because I kept on letting this happen.
Well, is it fair to say that you had her on a pedestal?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She was on the pedestal. She was in the queen's throne, and I was the little peasant there down below, just, on one knee the whole time, and just, what would you like? What can I do for you? How can I make your life any better? I mean, I will try, because I didn't want her to go stray away and go do what she did the last couple of times. So it's like I just kept on doing the same thing over and over again. And she was just eating it all up. So then after that, she would start love bombing me, but then I would love bomb her back and just give her a whole bunch of praise, I love you. I didn't. I'm sorry we went through all this, but I think we still deserve each other and that sort of thing. And I hope that we can get through this, that sort of thing. And then she would fire back, and then her love bombing would increase, and the manipulation would increase, and then all of a sudden, it's almost like I forgot that even happened. And just because of all the praise and love bombing I was getting from her and that sort of thing. And that she, not once did she ever apologize in any of these situations. Not once. There was not one apology whatsoever. There was not one apology. There was no tears. There was no sign of any type of remorse whatsoever. it's almost like, okay, yeah, that happened, and then we'll just move on, and that sort of thing. So after the second one, it's kind of when my son started actually cluing in about what kind of person she was. She kept on talking down to him and nagging him and almost like treating him like he did, like she didn't want him to be there. Almost like he was interfering with what she had, I guess, between me and I never noticed it because, again, I was just oblivious to anything at this point because she was just, giving all of her attention to me. So as soon as she gives me her attention, then I just feel like, nothing's wrong. Everything's great. It's fantastic, and, over the years and even up until about a few months ago when my son finally had enough, he lost a relationship with her. One was the fact that, like, my son is a very sensitive kid and he's very affectionate, and she could never hug him. He would try and go in and she would give him like a side hug, but he wouldn't feel that was a true hug. And even after this is all said and done, that's all he ever asked for. When I talked to him, he's like, all I ever wanted was to be loved by her, and she couldn't love me. And that hurt. That hurt a lot. And I even told her that, and it like it went in one ear and out the other. And it was tough. It was really tough. So anyways, I mean, after the second incident, that sort of thing, we went about a year and a half or 2 years without no incidents. Everything was fine. We were getting along, but I noticed that I was starting to do way more stuff, like with the kids. Like we were always going out together, but without her, she always seemed to not want to come with us or not want to do anything with us or anything like that. So it almost turned out like it was, instead of a family of 4, it was a family of 3. But she was always preoccupied on that phone. So anyways, I finally talked to her about it, and, she turned it around for a bit, and everything seemed to be fine again until about July 2016. I finally got my divorce from my ex-wife, and things were in a good place, and I decided that I'm going to propose to her. And so she's her first language is French, and my first language is English, and I don't have a second language, so I don't know anything. I don't know any French whatsoever. But I ended up proposing to her in French, and in front of her family and her friends and everything like that, and in a special way. And she said yes. And
she said, "We."
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to do that joke.
Actually, they do a bang oui. That's what it is. So, French people who are French will understand that one. But so, anyways, we started planning the wedding. We weren't going to get married right away. We were going to kind of sit in engagement for a couple of years and really take our time on it. And we weren't planning a very big wedding, anyways. But she had never been married before, and she was the first sibling in her family to get married. So it was a very special time for her. So for the next couple of years, that was her focus, was planning that wedding and making it absolutely perfect. And I was helping her with the planning a lot and getting involved and that sort of thing. And so we ended up getting married in July of 2018. And we had I made my own vows, but she just went with the old standard vows, which I kind of thought was kind of weird. Like, I don't know.
So you were putting a lot of effort, and she was giving minimal effort still, right here.
Yeah.
On your wedding day, when you're putting in that kind of maximum effort on original vows, and she's not putting that effort at all, how are you? You're getting married that day. How are you feeling? Are you feeling ill will towards her on your wedding day? Are you upset on your wedding day because of something like that?
No, I was so busy with itineraries and that sort of thing, and just getting everything organized and perfect, for her, that I really didn't get a chance to even think about myself, not one bit. And throughout the entire relationship, that's, now looking back on it, I never thought about myself. I never thought about anything. I only ever thought about how's she doing, how's she feeling, does she need more of this, does she need more of that. Do I need to do this more? Do I need to, step up with the house duties? Do I need to take her out to dinner more? Do we need more date nights? And not one thing. I never thought about myself whatsoever. So the day of the wedding, I was just all over the place, just trying to make sure everything was absolutely perfect so that she would show up. Because if something would not go her way, it would be like the world is ending. And she gets so disappointed whenever she doesn't get her way, like when she was going for policing, that sort of thing, and she didn't get in. She was absolutely devastated, but she was blaming it on other things, and if she wouldn't be able to accomplish something, she would blame it on something else besides her. It was always seemed to be somebody else's fault and not her fault, which I kind of noticed as a pattern with her and her son. It seems to be always somebody else's fault. They would never be able to do any wrong. And so I had to make sure that wedding was absolutely 100% spot on perfect. And it was. It went off without a hitch. A few little hiccups here, but she didn't notice it, so that was fine. So a beautiful wedding. We're starting this up here, that sort of thing. And at that point, shortly after, that's when things just started to go down. So she has the beautiful engagement ring, the beautiful ring, that sort of thing. She's got everything that she ever wants, but for some reason, she just wanted more. So I noticed that her attention to me started to kind of subside, that sort of thing. I found ourselves, we weren't talking very much anymore. And our love life, which was incredibly hot right in the beginning, all the way through, even especially after incidents, that sort of thing, it was just nonstop. Now I just kind of noticed that things were kind of going away a little bit. And she ended up rekindling with a friend from high school shortly after we got married. And it turned out that these people were in the swinger community. And I'm like, okay, cool. It's great. They're very nice people. It's great that they do what they do. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But these people, this couple, had what's called like meet and greets with the swinger community, and she wondered if I wanted to go. And I'm like, do I have to do anything? Like, we're not hooking up with people or anything like that, because I'm not comfortable with that at all. And she's like, no, we'll just go there and we'll see what happens. I don't like that term, see what happens, because I don't want to see what happens sometimes. So we ended up going to this party, and we were there with a couple other friends, that sort of thing. And we're just there, it's dancing, everything's fine. Everybody's very nice and that sort of thing. And then our friends decide, our friends from out of town, they had a hotel room close by. They're like, do you want to come by for a drink afterwards? And my wife said, yeah, sure, let's go. And so we went. We didn't know that, they invited, 10 other people to go with them. And it literally happened within one snap of your fingers. We were up there at room for about 10 seconds. And everybody just started taking their clothes off. And I'm just kind of sitting here like, what's going on here? And my wife had no issues jumping in there right away to get things started. And I kind of sat there for a little bit until I was grabbed by her. And then all of a sudden now we're in a full-blown orgy. And I kind of looked over at one point, and there was a guy that was doing things to my wife. And all of a sudden this guy's wife starts grabbing me, and now I'm kind of in between her legs. And anyway, it's getting really, really bad. And at one point I could feel somebody put a hand on my head while I'm kind of down there, and I kind of look up, and it's my wife that's doing it. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like I don't want to be in this type of situation, I'm not a big fan of this. So the next day we ended up talking about it, and I said, I don't want to do that ever again. And she's like, well, maybe we just kind of tone down a little bit. I said, no, I don't want to ever do that again. And so she kind of got disappointed about it, and I said, no, I don't want to go to these things anymore. I said, it's very uncomfortable for me. I'm sure, some people like these sort of things. This is just not me. And so anyways, she kind of backed off a little bit, but then brought it back up again and said, well, what if we just kind of do it smaller style? Maybe we find a couple. I said, yeah, I'm not really comfortable with this, but eventually she just manipulated me and persuaded me and just kept on just pouring it on and that sort of thing until she convinced me. So she's like, let's just try it again and see what happens. So I'm like, okay. I said, I don't want to do what we did last time. It's not, I don't want to do that. And she's like, no, of course not. And then all of a sudden it went from, we'll try it again to now she's creating a Facebook profile with us, because that's how these people communicate. They create a profile and talk to groups, and and stuff happens. And anyways, I'm going to leave that one alone. And so now we're kind of swingers, I guess. And I don't want to be one, but apparently I've been persuaded into one. And we never actually did anything after that. We went to a few more of these parties and that sort of thing. We had fun. We danced. Everything was great. But then I said, no, I'm not doing it. So anyways, I tried to figure out why we were going through this. Was it something we needed to spice up our life, our sex life, or anything like that? Because I thought it was really good. And she even told me it was really good. And she's just like, I just like the thrill of it. And I'm like, okay, can we thrill other ways? Like, not with other people. And she's like, okay, but she was disappointed in it. She was disappointed. She didn't like my answer, that I just wasn't into this. And when she doesn't get her way, she'll find a way to get her way, some way, shape, or form. And she's done it throughout the entire relationship, and she's going to try her best to try and make sure this happens. If not, then who knows? So anyways, we ended up meeting another couple through the swinger couple who were not swingers. They were normal, not normal. They were just regular people that like
to talk.
They like their husbands and wives just fine. And so we started hanging out with these people a lot more, that sort of thing. So it was this couple. The wife was a daycare provider, and then this other guy was the husband was kind of like an artist, a freelance artist kind of thing. And so we started hanging out with him quite a bit through the summer. This was just last summer. And we even helping him out with his business, his artist business and everything like that, doing fundraisers for him and that sort of thing. And I noticed something in my wife, but I didn't actually put it together. So this guy had a specific kind of a clothing that he would wear, and then all of a sudden she started buying the same clothing. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. It's not. It was a unique style of clothing that I would never expect my wife to wear. But anyway, she started wearing it. And this guy had a lot of tattoos, and she's decided that she wanted to start getting more tattoos. And she actually had a tattoo drawn up by him. And the tattoo is actually her face, which I found kind of weird. I never see people get a tattoo of their face done on them. But it was done in a way where it was covering her. There was a lace covering her eyes, and it was just the bottom half of her face. And it had some unique wording on it, that sort of thing, like just some sayings, that sort of thing. I found it super weird, of getting a tattoo of yourself on your face.
Yeah.
And so, and then at the same time, she started really getting into the fitness, really starting to work out again. And she even to the point where she wanted to do a fitness photo shoot, a professional fitness photo shoot. So I was helping her with her meal plans and everything like that, and really pushing her to get this done and that sort of thing. And then she ended up doing it. And she was wearing the clothing wear that this guy was wearing as a bikini. And then, of course, this guy's company hat was on there and that sort of thing. And it almost felt like, was it for him or for her? And I started putting pieces together. We ended up hanging out even more, and then there was even at more points she would tell me that she would run into him from time to time, and they would be talking and that sort of thing, and everything just started feeling almost too coincidental. And then this past New Year's, we ended up going to a party with the same couple, and that's where I started noticing some things. It looked like they were kind of fondling each other weird and that sort of thing. And it just, things became too close. And in the car ride home, I remember, and I at that point I decided to go home because we were going to another party. And I saw my wife look at this guy, and I know that look. And I I've had that look before, and I know what she's thinking with that look. And that's where I lost it. And I said, oh, God, just take me home. And I went home, and I couldn't sleep at all that night. She came in later on, and she went to bed, and I got out of the bed, and I went downstairs, and I was just fuming. I couldn't believe, like, she's doing this again, but this time she's doing it in front of my face. And she's thinking that I don't know anything about this. So I ended up going for a walk that morning to try and clear my thoughts. I'm trying to think, like, how could she do this right now? Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I've done absolutely I possibly can for this woman. And, you know, I've changed my look. I've changed the way I act. I'm going to the gym, for crying out loud, you know, which, you know, it's fine. It's good to go to the gym, but, I do absolutely everything around the house for her. I take care of the kids, make sure everything's all good, make sure that she doesn't have to do anything because she can focus on whatever she needs to focus on, which was anything but, everything but, it was all about her. I confronted her that morning, and I asked her, and I said, what's going on between you and this guy? And I said, it looks like you guys are getting really close, that sort of thing. And she kind of looked at me like I was crazy. And she said, and that's what she called me, you're crazy. I said, you're talking about, he's married. And I would never do anything like that to a married person, that sort of thing. Now I'm thinking back, well, you did, but, and then she's like, I love you. Like, the sex is great. Everything's great. Why would I want to go with anybody else? That sort of thing. So I brushed it off a little bit, but I didn't like that answer. So I ended up putting a camera in our house just to see what's going on, because she worked different kind of shifts than I did. She was on night shifts and that sort of thing, and she was spending, she'd always have a lot of time to herself at home. I just wanted to see if there was anything going on, and I would see her leave the house, and I would kind of ask her, hey, what's going on? Where are you going? That sort of thing. Or what are you up to today? She's like, oh, I'm just gonna go to the gym and that sort of thing. Well, she left the house with no gym bag, so I don't know how you're gonna go to the gym. So then she would say, oh, I'm just going to the store. I'll be back in about an hour. And then, the camera would show she'd come back, 4 hours later, that sort of thing. So she was meeting somebody, or doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. Anyways, I noticed that on the camera one day. She was in a very interesting phone call with someone. I didn't know who, because there was no sound. So I was trying to figure out if there's a way I can get sound on this camera, and you could with a laptop if you take it out and put it on a laptop. So I went home that night, plugged it into a laptop, and it was this guy, and it was her talking, and they were talking about what they were going to do to each other, and how much his voice melts her body, and how much of a connection they have, and how much in love that she is with him, and that sort of thing. And, and then they would finish off by bashing his wife, and just, I couldn't believe the conversation they were having with each other. I heard that, and I was kind of done at that point. I couldn't believe that she was saying this to somebody after what she has at her, at home with the model husband. I had my faults, but I mean, I basically provided everything I possibly could to her and more. And she was still going out and finding, more praise, more affirmation. Like, I couldn't give her enough. Like, it just wasn't enough. So I talked to her the next day about it, and I said, why now? Why? What's going on now? And then she finally said, oh, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. I said, well, how long have you not been happy for? She's like 2 to 3 months. I'm like, then why haven't you ended it? If you weren't happy, we could have fixed it, or we could have just ended it. And then I asked her, I said, what do you want to do? So, like, she's now done this several times, but yet still in my mind, like, she's got me so kind of twisted that I'm still willing to try and make this work. And, like, I still think there's hope and that sort of thing, and that her manipulation and her schmoozing and her persuasiveness and her love bombing throughout the whole entire years has just got me hooked. That all I want is just more. All I want is just more of her, and it's almost like she can do no wrong. I even checked myself into therapy to try and see if there's anything wrong with me. And I asked her, I said, you should go into therapy too, just to see what's going on, because why do you keep doing this to me? And that sort of thing. And then she said, oh, yeah, okay, I'll look into therapy. Well, she never did. And my therapist really opened my eyes when I first couple sessions with him. And he basically said, you can't be with this woman anymore. And it kind of opened up my eyes, like, whoa, wow, that's pretty aggressive saying that. He's like, well, he started explaining, the basics of a relationship, and he started asking questions. Did she do this? Did she do that? Does she do, she respect you? Is she honest? Is she trustworthy? Does she communicate? And I said no to all those, and that's what made me open up my eyes that I'm not with, I can't be with this person anymore, and that sort of thing. Like, she was like, the outside world sees her as a wonderful, beautiful woman and that sort of thing, and, very bubbly and outgoing, but deep inside, she's got some serious problems going on here. Like, there's a lot of hidden emotions, and she keeps it really well hidden.
So I have something written down on my piece of paper, and I was going to bring it up eventually, but you just said the word, and I have it written down 3 times here, and I circled. I doodle sometimes while I'm listening, and the word was respect. And
yeah.
So when it comes to that word and how you're feeling and dealing with your whole entire relationship, because I don't know what else is coming, but I guess is the biggest thing for you after all of it, and you don't have to answer this now, but feeling like you were never respected?
Looking back now, now that I know the tools that she used on me, absolutely not. She shows no respect to anybody, not even to her own son sometimes. The only person she respects is herself. And, shortly after my therapy sessions, I started researching a little bit, and it's funny, like, through conversations in the past with her, she kept on calling other people narcissists. And I never even knew what the word even meant. I'm like, that sounds bad. So I just like, okay, I never actually researched the term or what it was all about until I started, looking up online and looking at self-help. And then I found your podcast and a few other little podcasts just about emotional behavior and emotional abuse. And I realized that I've been emotionally abused this entire time. I've been fed bullshit the entire time, and while she was off just kind of doing whatever she is that she wanted to do, and that it doesn't matter what I do for her, it'll never be enough for her. It'll never satisfy her. She cannot be in a relationship. She needs, it's because she just constantly wants more praise, more affirmation. That's why she was always on her phone all the time. So then I started researching what love bombing was, and gaslighting, and trauma bonding, and NPD, and all this sort of thing. And every time somebody would talk about a subject, I was like, yeah, it's exactly what she did, word for word, almost, like, action for action. Like, it was just unbelievable. I said, I've been married and I've been dating a narcissist for 7 years, and I didn't even realize it. And I didn't realize that how sneaky these people can be, and how poorly they could treat somebody and then just turn around and just live their life normally like nothing had ever happened. And that's exactly what she had done for 7 years. She would do a bad thing, but then she would just slide it under the rug and then continue living her life like she didn't do anything wrong. I'm like, how can you even live with yourself with doing that? So finally, after a few therapy sessions, I started telling people. I never told anybody about the first 2 times, that sort of thing, but I started telling people. I started off with my sister, because she's the most level-headed person I know. And then at that point, my son decided he didn't want to live with us anymore, or live with me anyway. He wanted to spend full time at his mom's. And when I asked why, he says, because I can't be with her. She doesn't treat me well. And at that point, I didn't want to argue with him or try, because we've had this conversation before in the past, and I would persuade him to say, no, she's a very good person. No, you're absolutely wrong. No, just give her another chance, that sort of thing. So, deep down, my 11-year-old son knew more than I did, and pegged her out right away. So with my son gone, and now I'm starting to tell people, I'm almost setting myself up to end it all right there. Like before, I just kind of hide it and keep it close to me and not even tell anybody about it because I didn't want to hurt her. Well, now I was done protecting her. So I finally, a couple weeks after this all happened, I asked if she'd gone to see a therapist. No, she had taken no action on this whatsoever. It was almost like she didn't care about the relationship or didn't care about fixing it. And I finally said, okay, I've had enough. I'm done. I want to start the separation, that sort of thing. And I had to beg her for an apology during that whole thing. Because I even told her, I said, not once, throughout this entire marriage that you ever really said sorry about for anything that you did. And you did do something wrong. I had to convince her that she did something wrong. And she never admitted it. I had to convince her. So she's got literally 100% no remorse about anything that she does. Anything that she does is perfectly fine because it makes her happy. She doesn't care about anybody else's feelings whatsoever. I mean, it was just absolutely unreal. So, I mean, we've now started the separation progress, but she's been dragging it on and dragging it on. And the reason why is because she's in between all this, she's still love bombing and, well, I guess now it would be called trauma bonding at this point. Like she knows, okay, I'm done with this relationship. What can I do to try and turn him around? What can I do to try and persuade him, that sort of thing? So she would persuade me in a sexual way. And, ask me to rub her shoulders or ask me to rub her feet or something like that. And I would fall for it. Again, I'm leaving this woman, but yet I'm still rubbing her feet. Like, I just don't get it, and, it was just unreal. And I'd go tell my therapist this and he's like, what are you doing to yourself? He said, you're not doing anything that's healthy for you. And he started teaching me that you've got to start looking out for you. And the more and more I saw my therapist and the more and more research I was doing online, the more I started to realize that I'm not helping myself at all with this situation. And yet she's getting everything that she wants out of me, So finally I decided I have to put in boundaries of how I'm going to live with this person, especially at this moment, like during COVID, because we're still living together right now because the separation process is still going on. But I've had to install boundaries. One was absolutely no talk about anything sexual, because that always seemed to just always end up, we would end up having sex. And then almost like things would go back to normal again. And it's like, no, that's not what I want to do. So I've had to put in some boundaries of just absolutely no, I don't want to talk to her about anything except a separation agreement and, buying out the house or anything to do to get out. I've left the bedroom now because my son's no longer living with us. So I'm living in his room right now because I felt like if I was in the bed, nothing came out of that except for trouble. And it was something that she wanted. She even tried to persuade me to come back to the bed so many times. Like, I really miss you, and it's really different sleeping in the bed, and it's cold, and, I just like touching you whenever, I'm in bed and that sort of thing. And a couple of times it worked, but once I finally moved out of the bed, then she would try, and it just wouldn't work anymore.
So is she currently in the house right now while we're talking?
No, I'm in another spot right now.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I would. No, that's crazy talk. No, I don't have that big of a house. So for her talking about that, if she heard us right now, she would be on fire right now. And no, I found another spot, but yeah, we're still living together right now. And it took her about 2 months to tell her family that we were done as a couple. Her mother knew something was going on long before then, but she's never told them the truth of why. And I recently just got into an argument with her, that sort of thing, because she wants to buy me out. So we were talking about finances, and her finances really triggers her. This is where she becomes rage. Anything to do with finances or her self-image. So she was talking about finances and how much that I'm gouging her for taking what I'm entitled to. I'm not taking anything more than I'm entitled to. I just want to get out of the house and go away. Take half of the house and away we go. And she's just like, I feel like I'm getting gouged and that sort of thing. And I kind of said, well, you shouldn't have done what you've done to the marriage. And it eventually, you know, I kind of got a little bit heated because I haven't really had a chance to really explode through this whole thing. It's still kind of stuck in me, like to actually blow up at her, like to show her, like really tell her truly how I feel. So I've been doing a lot of journaling, and I think at the end of the day, I'm just going to hand that to her and say, have a read, and that's it. But I kind of blurted out the fact that she was cheating and that sort of thing, and she was telling me to keep my voice down because her son was upstairs. And I said, why do you want to keep my voice down? And she's like, well, I don't want him to hear. I said, you don't want him to hear the truth. And she's like, well, it's none of his business. I'm like, oh my God, man. Is it because, and it's because of her image. She doesn't want anybody to know that she is, she's a cheater and that she's a narcissist. I even told her she was one too, and I haven't got a response back from that, but she went absolutely silent when I did tell her that. I'm hoping that kind of hit her, but I know that these types of people, they don't believe it. That's why they continue to do it. But at this point, I can't even stand to look at her anymore.
And how is your relationship now with your son and him knowing that you're finally going to be getting a divorce from her? Was there any ill will between you two while it was going on? And are you, if there was, are you trying to repair that?
I think my son was a little bit hesitant to talk to me about a lot of things because I was always taking her side. So he was never able to really open up truly about his feelings until he learned that, you know, that we were no longer going to be together. At this point now, he just wants it to be done, and he wants to come back. He does want to come back and live with me, but just me.
Okay.
He doesn't want to have anything to do with her whatsoever, that sort of thing. He still has a hard time talking to me about it. He doesn't really want to talk about her at all. So that's going to be a sensitive subject for a while for him. So I've tried to keep not really talk about her, that sort of thing. It was funny, a couple of days ago, she was in the love trauma bonding stage. She was asking about him, which was the first time in a month that she had asked about him, and wondering when he's ever coming back. I said he doesn't want to come back, and he just doesn't feel comfortable here anymore. And I wanted to say because, you know, he doesn't like you, but again, I was protecting her and said he just doesn't want to come back anymore. So he just wants to live with his mother. And, you know, for the longest time I was also treating it like, oh, he's quarantined and he can't leave the house and that sort of thing. Well, quarantine's over now, well, at least on his end, and now he just doesn't want to come. So she knows that he doesn't like her. So.
And as far as you go, before you were talking about anger and being angry and allowing yourself to be angry through everything that has gone on and how you were treated and how you felt that maybe that you did not get any respect. And so you're dealing with anger issues. Have you gotten through to certain points now where you're now dealing with other emotions, if you deal with shame or guilt about what has gone on? And if so, how are you and your therapist kind of going through that?
So, yeah, my therapist is basically, he's got me on the track of learning to love myself again. He knows that I'm really beaten up and that I've got to repair myself before I can repair anything. So I've gone through grieving, and then, of course, then she'll trauma bond or love bond, and then I'll kind of go back to, all right, maybe I'll negotiate kind of thing, and then something else bad happens, or, we talk about our finances or something like that, and then I go back to being angry again. So he's given me some tools to kind of how to get that anger out without actually getting angry at her. There's been times where I've been driving in my car and I'm literally yelling at the top of my lungs not so very nice things about her, and that seems to help. The one big thing that really does help me is journaling, is writing it down. It really gets it off my chest, because writing it I find that when you're writing something down, it seems more real and almost it's like more concrete. It's there. It's on paper. That's my feelings right there on paper. And I mean, I can go on journaling, and I don't just journal about her or anything. I journal about everything now, everything with work, with my son, with her son, who I still have a very good relationship with. You know, anything that bothers me now, I write it down. So that's helping me with my anger a little bit. I think now I'm at the point where I'm just, I still grieve a little bit. I feel shame because obviously I don't want to be divorced twice. You know, everybody tells me, you know, I'm a great guy and I'm that sort of thing. I think I am. And I just have to start learning to really believe that I am and that sort of thing. And I have to realize that this wasn't all my fault. You know, even like during like the beginning stages, I thought it was my fault. Like this was what did I do to drive her over to do this? And you know, it was a lot of self-doubt.
Yeah, but you were dealing with someone who love bombed you, gave you the heroin you needed, and you know, you were a pleaser and would go over the top to make this person feel good, and your partner is an impulsive person who always needs something. And and if you're unable in that minute of the day be able to provide your partner with that something, your partner was going to find that something somewhere else. And sometimes, you know, having the job of always, you know, you had the job of you had to be there and be ready when your partner wanted to do something. And then if you wanted to do something, I'm going to assume that your partner was just like, unless it fit their schedule, it wasn't happening, or it was happening. So you were constantly the servant to their impulsive needs, and they'll always have that impulsive need. They will not get filled. It will be a constant thing, and you were caught in the drama of, you know, if I don't feed this thing, am I going to be on the chopping block, or things along those lines? So you constantly try to do things to prove your worth that they won't leave, because our self-esteem at a certain point evaporates because, you know, they've made us believe that they are the be-all and end-all and they love you, and that's injected in you, and then you're caught in that web. And once you're in that web, it's not easy to get out of.
No, it's still not. Even with what's going on right now, like there's still parts of me where I'm kind of thinking like, you know, she can change this. She can turn this around if she just gets a little bit of help and that sort of thing. And, you know, maybe she can just turn this around. But it's more, as more days go by and that sort of thing, it just gets more and more clear that that's never going to happen. And that, you know, if she keeps this up, like, she's just going to end up being an old, lonely person, that sort of thing, which, you know, she said about a bunch of women, that sort of thing. But she's got to look in the mirror and look for a really long time. And I think with the help with my therapy, I'm now learning to move forward and not try and hang back and try and fix what I can't fix anymore. I can only fix me and make myself better and that sort of thing. So that's my goal now going forward, is just trying to better myself every single day and just leave her behind and don't care about what she does, that sort of thing. Because I would always care about what she does and that sort of thing, even to the point where I was like checking to see if she was online or something like that, if she was on, you know, one of the messengers or something like that. I'd always see if she was online or what she's doing, who's she talking to. Now it's just
get off of social media.
I've actually snoozed her. I don't even see her updates or anything like that anymore. So I'm trying to get her off social media, so I don't even have anything to do with her anymore.
So before we end off the show, do you have any words of wisdom for others?
Yeah, I've got some words of wisdom here. So, learning about what these people, what narcissists are all about, is that notice the signs early, because they happen very, very early. So the red flags for me is definitely the love bombing. That will catch you right away, that sort of thing. So if someone is saying, you know, you're the one and I love you and let's get married within a couple of weeks, I would run 100%. Nobody who's got a healthy mind thinks like that. I'm starting to learn that now. that, you know, that's not what a normal person would think. I mean, there's love, you know, there's love, but that's not real love. That's one thing I've learned, and also don't give 100% of yourself to someone else, because they're just going to take it and take it and take it, and then when you've run out of gas, they're going to look somewhere else to get it. And, you know, believe in yourself and believe that you are a good person. And, you know, you have to, you know, if you're a good person and you believe you're a good person and you love yourself, then that person's going to love you too, because they know that you love yourself as well. You know, it's just, you know, and like I said, don't give yourself to anybody. Don't give all yourself to anybody. You got to leave some for yourself. If you do see these red flags like love bombing and manipulations and gaslighting, you got to run. And if you find you don't know how to do it, get into therapy and learn how to learn these techniques and that sort of thing, and learn what they can do to people, and you know, how it can ruin your life if you don't get out. I'm not 100% there yet, but hopefully soon I'll be there, and I'll be a much better person because of it.
Well, James, I hope you are as well. And thank you for being on the show today and sharing your story with us. It's been an honor.
Thank you very much. Thanks for letting me speak my mind, because this is the last time I'm talking about it.
That is good. That is good. That's what we like to hear, that, you know, you take this and you move on and you get some closure, hopefully, from this. And I just want to thank you once again. And for everyone else that is listening, I hope you have a good night.